So for these trees, what you're going to need is some scouring pads. I got these from my local all-in-one store. It's a 10 for like 79 pence or something. These are all wooden bamboo skewers, and these can make, you know, small, medium, large, whatever you like. But if you want something a little bigger, more extravagant, use these. These are nice thick wooden dowels, 10 pack from a shop called The Works. They were £1, and if you're lucky enough to work in a kitchen or an industrial place, they might have these kind of things. And what these are the sponge for floor scrubbing machines. And if you're very lucky, they may have a spare one, but you can buy these on Amazon. I got these in a pack of 3, I think. So, both techniques pretty much exactly the same. But first, I'm going to show you how we get these ready. Okay, so first I'm going to go with the smaller one. So, your average scouring pad. As you can see, it's not very thick, but what you can do is you can kind of tease it apart like that. But first you need to just decide on what shape you want your tree. I'm just going to go with round, so I'm going to cut out a few different sized round circles. Then I'm going to tease them apart at the edge, but I'll come back when I start doing that. There we go. Count them. Then all you want to do next is just tease them apart at the edges. You can do this as much or as little as you want. So there, they look kind of like that. And all you want to do is the exact same for all the rest of them. Also, what you can do if you want, as well as teasing it apart at the sides, you can kind of tease bits up at the top. So say if you want the top of your trees looking all rough and textured, you can do that as well. If you want them more realistic looking, that is always an option. So just tease it apart. The rougher the better, as this is going to be like the top. There. Doesn't have to be perfect. So, almost done. Okay, once you've got all your shapes decided and teased apart and such, you just want to grab your little wooden skewer and just begin placing them however you like. Just watch your fingers, and you can spread these apart wherever you like. What I'm going to do first though is I'm just going to paint these brown, just so I don't have to get in between first. I suggest you do the same just so you're not in between leaves. So let's crack on with that. Okay, so I've painted the trunks, and all I did was just base them brown. Then with a sponge, I just lightly mixed in some lighter brown and some white, just to make it a little bit more realistic. Then the next stage, all you need to do You just skewer them on and just decide on your spacing. I want to leave a little bit because I want to make an actual trunk. If you have patience, you could probably use tacky glue or PVA, but I don't. Plus, for the purposes of this video, just to speed it along a little bit. Must be very careful of your fingers, especially if you leave the point on. And unfortunately, it's better to leave the point on so you can get them all on without too much force or pressure. Okay, so that's what it's looking like at the next stage. So what I want to do next is just add a trunk. Now you could use just cheap air drying clay. In fact, I have tried that before, but the clay I used was just, I think it's called Das, and it was just really old, so it was kind of difficult to work with. So luckily, I have lots of green stuff. This stuff is much better to work with. Also, be very careful when using sharp knives. Just get however much you need. You don't need much at all. And I always like to add a little bit of Vaseline when I'm working with green stuff. Just makes it a little bit easier to work with. Also, if your green stuff is brand new, I can't imagine you'd need to add any Vaseline, but even so, it just makes it much easier to sculpt. And as long as you're not adding too much Vaseline, it doesn't affect it when it's fully cured. Okay, it's nice and mixed. And just go and add it to wherever you want your trunk to be. Obviously, if you want a slightly larger trunk, you can add a lot more green stuff than I have done here, but this is just going to be small to medium sized tree. Well, going from the size of the minis, I guess this would be a pretty big tree. Okay, let's get rid of all your fingerprints. Nice and smooth. And obviously you can use a pencil or something, but I've got these nice sculpting tools, and all you're going to do is just very haphazardly just add lots of little scores. And like, don't be afraid if you chip some away, like so. It just makes it look like the bark is falling off the trunk. Adds a tiny bit more realism. Best part about doing your own trees, each one is unique. If you're doing it this way, of course. Just add however much texture you want. And let's tease some away. Now it's entirely up to you. You can either do this stage at the very end, or you can do it now. I'm choosing to do it now. Okay, there we go. Nice and textured. Cool. So that's it for this step. Next, we'll be making these look slightly less like scrubbing pads. Alright, okay, so all I've got here is just some Mod Podge that I've watered down slightly. All you want to do now is just paint it onto your foliage. Alright, I think that's as good as I'm going to get it. Now obviously I'm expecting there to be quite a lot of missed gaps, but that's fine, don't worry about it. All you want to do then, give it a nice coating. Obviously, if you want to miss this step entirely, you could always dry brush the scouring pad. I used that technique when I made my hedges, I believe. But either way, without actually dipping it in PVA or Mod Podge or tacky glue, whatever, this is probably the quickest way without the use of spray glue or spray adhesive, like that carpet adhesive I was talking about earlier. But like I say, these don't have to look perfect. It's not as if you wanting, well, you may be wanting them based on actual, to look like actual trees, but these trees are for a fantasy setting, so they don't have to be perfect, they don't have to look like actual trees, as long as they are tree-like. And there we go. Like a crummy looking knick-knack. Right, I think I'm just going to leave that to dry, see how they turn out, then I'm going to work on the bigger ones. Alright, I've just gone ahead and painted up these thicker wooden dowels for the bigger trees, but the thing is with these, as you can see, they don't have a pointed edge, but essentially what these feel like to me are just pencils just without lead in. So what you can do is just take any pencil sharpener, perhaps not your best one if for some reason you have a best pencil sharpener, and just sharpen the edge to a point. And then same again, just slowly tease it through, being very careful not to jam yourself in the hand. And eventually, because these are much thicker, but eventually they will go on, decide on how high or low down you want the first one. Add your bit of super glue or your tacky glue or PVA or whatever you choose to use, and then just decide on your spacing. If you want all the foliage kind of clumped or spaced apart, And before you do this, you can obviously tease these apart. But these, while using these and teasing them apart, I'd wear a face mask because they do, you maybe can't see it, but they give off a kind of very, very fine powder, so you don't want to be breathing that in. So I'm just going to go ahead with this one, and the only difference with these bigger trees is I'm going to spray them with a carpet adhesive, so it's kind of like a spray glue, but I'm going to have to do that outside. Another quick tip, if you want to add a little bit more texture to the trunk and you're not happy with how you got on with your sculpting tool, wire brush. Jam it in, no real pattern. Just scrape it up. Obviously you don't want to be too vigorous with this, just a light scraping, as you don't want to scrape it off the wooden dowel. Just add some nice added texture that you can't get with your bigger sculpting tool. Plus, with it having lots of little brushes, just add lots of random detail. You maybe won't be able to see, but yeah, it just makes it look a lot rougher, more trunk-like, if you will. So that's the two really bigger trees done. Now, instead of using my handmade flock for these, I'm going to try something different. I've had this in my hobby room for a long time. All it is, oregano leaves. Might look interesting. Make it look kind of like a deadish kind of tree. Maybe a bit creepy, who knows. But yeah, it's good to experiment with this stuff. So, gonna base them, well, spray them with carpet adhesive, then go about them with these. Alright, so the small trees first, and this is with the carpet adhesive I was talking about and just my homemade flock. Good bit of advice, leave as much as this on as you feel comfortable with, just so you can paint the trunk afterwards, and even after that leave a little bit just so you can stick it into something so it doesn't fall out like that. So they're the small ones. This is the largest one that I did with oregano. Exactly the same, carpet adhesive, and just put oregano all over it. Yes, I will be getting a bit of oregano all over the place for quite some time. Okay, so stiff brush, and just add some details to the trunk, just so it doesn't look plain. And that'll do. Once it's dried, I can dry brush it white. then that'll be these pretty much done. And here are the final results. So please do let me know in the comments what you think, if you like these longer videos or if you prefer them shorter. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.